Hi, this is Nick, and this is the fourth episode in my For Odin playthrough of Europa Universalis 4. November 3rd is a day that will go down in history, at least in this alternate universe. It's the day that peace was declared in the Aragonese War. Oh, November 1st. And it was settled in November 3rd. So Aragon has significantly destroyed Castile, though Castile could still come back from this, especially if there were rebels. Morocco has obviously taken half of Portugal. Austria, for some reason, due to that, has unrivaled France and rivaled Venice. I'm not sure how that change of the balance of power really occurred, but that's what it's done. And, Milan's going rather well down there. Anyway, so, back to our part of the world. Oh, and finally, just, Denmark has invaded Neva. So, that could be a nice little buffer to protect Scandinavia from the Poles. Perhaps not. Who knows? So our exploration fleet under the command of Einar Erne has scouted westwards, discovered the island of Limnov and the island of Humbug, containing several areas. Obviously, areas are going to be important when we have states. But, interestingly, completely uninhabited these islands are. So far as we know, there may be people on the western side of this island. So if we look at areas, look at possible states, there's possibilities of where we want to make our states. Interestingly though, for some reason, I don't have the colonial range to reach anything there, but I have the colonial range to reach there from here in Restvus, I guess, which I just finished colonizing a year or so ago. And I'm just colonizing one province right now because letting my gold go back up, and also finding better targets that aren't in the Arctic. Now that little island there also happens to be the important natural harbour in this trade node. So as we can see in the trade mode, we now have discovered the two. If I actually click on the thing properly, we've now found the two upstream nodes from Wipet, but we still don't know what these downstream nodes are, and I'm rather confused, because what else could it be that I don't know about? Unless, for some reason, these go this way and then suddenly go whoosh all the way down there. Do I have actually discovered the trade node? I've discovered this one. So, that has a downstream node, which I assume, an upstream node, which I assume is there. Can we see this one's trade node? Probably not. I don't think we've discovered the actual node itself. No, it's hidden in there. So we'll have to wait until then. But this is a nice little province, is not Arctic, and is a nice natural harbour that will allow us dominance of this node. If we go to the development screen, we can see that nothing is really standing out at all. Obviously, in this terra incognita, fog of war, as it were, there is something that's a development above 10 province or provinces there, which could be good. But for now, actually, that's an important thing. If we start settling here and want this to be, that's this weirdly shaped area. So there's some inland in this province, and then interesting. Because obviously we want to be mindful of future states and want to try to pick the best overall states to focus our colonial efforts on. Also, we might, if we keep our capital in Reykjavik, then we might need to make sure that we only have 4 provinces in each of the colonial areas, which may force us to actually put some stuff in Limnov just to work around that. Of course, we could just let ourselves have colonial nations, but that's not ideal. We want as much power for ourselves, as much of a centralized government as possible, because otherwise we will never have the power and might required to take on Scandinavia and England. Though England is currently losing some wars. Maybe they were losing a lot more. They were losing to Kildare and France, but now evidently they've struck back. On the 22nd of July 1491, or in fact on the 19th of July 1491, Duchess Swanhilda Gildenpalm, was it? It's a bit sad that I've forgotten the previous ruler's name. But in any case, we could actually go to the history. Yes, Svanhilda Gildenpalm has died, leaving her terrible son, which we forgot to get rid of, in power. Hopefully he will die soon-ish. We do, however, get to choose a deity. So, what deity do we want to keep with Njord? Do we want to go for Freya? Currently, our taxation is our major income source, with trade coming behind that. We've got 32.7% of our income is trade. That would suggest that Freya would be more useful in boosting the money that we can then spend on our colonies. However, trade efficiency has a slight kind of multiplicative effect in that it will boost our trade power as well, which will then allow us to get more trade, which then can be multiplied by the trade efficiency in terms of how much money we get from that trade. But I think we are heading into the phase where our taxation from our rapidly increasing number of provinces is outstripping the trade value that we're getting, at least right now. That might change when New World furs come into fashion, because currently our furs are actually worth less than our cod. And we also have a naval supplies province, which is always going to be terrible. But at some point furs, they'll run out of European beavers, and in order to have fur hats, they're going to have to buy our furs in the New World, and that's going to really jump up the fur price. So perhaps that's still might still be a while, and I believe it actually has a minimum date that's somewhere in the 1500s. The other possibility is to take someone like Tor or Tyr and prepare for war. At some point, we want to gobble these two countries up, and that will lead to a dramatic jump in our strength, well, in our tax dollars at least, because these two countries have been putting all their monarch points into their, well, not all of them, but a lot of them into their development. So they've actually got really good provinces, and it's a lot easier to conquer someone's provinces and then convert them to your own than it is to colonize provinces. Also, the fact that these provinces are so good and they're all Serbian, because Bosnian doesn't exist in the game, as I may have mentioned in the second episode, I believe. Bosnian doesn't exist in the game as a culture in EU4. So Bosnia is a Serbian country, which obviously that is problematic, but anyway, lost Bosnia and lost Serbia are both Serbian, and so they're pretty much guaranteed to be, well, they are guaranteed to be accepted cultures should we conquer them. And then later on they might lose their accepted status when we get big enough, but that's going to be a long time away. So we could invade, but as I also mentioned, their armies, while actually, let's do a bit of ledger hacking. So they've both only got 5,000 men, and they could have 8 or 7,000 men. I can currently have a force limit of 8,000, so I could have an army that is bigger than their 5,000, though not bigger than their force limit, equal to them in force limit, but their units are significantly better than my units. Not just because they're ahead of me in military technology, but also because the starting units of High American are a lot better than the starting units of European tech group. So these High Americans will, I believe, until tech level 19, have better units than we do. So there are two possible ways to beat them technologically. One is to beat them to Mil Tech 10, which is pretty much going to be impossible for us to do, but if we were to beat them to Military Tech 10, and thus have Svartsreiters before they get their advanced cavalry, that might give us the edge. Or we could just build more units than they have, and that would also give us the edge, but we need to get a lot bigger before we can even support that, because right now we can't really support an army anyway, especially because we've got colonies on the go. At some point I might actually stop colonizing and then just focus on the military aspect, because the vast gap here between Europe and the New World means I'm pretty safe to take a pause and not have things taken off me, though I'm pretty sure that when Portugal gets diplomatic tech 7, and this depends on whether there are prevailing trade winds or not affecting this, but I think they might be able to bridge that gap at diplomatic 7, if not at diplomatic 9, because Portugal has a plus 25% colonial range national idea, in addition to the 50% colonial range that they have for the third level of exploration ideas. So, and I mean, they may not have scouted this out. Also, Portugal is significantly losing the game, so they might get wiped out by Morocco, but probably not wiped out by Morocco. They'll probably only... Oh, they made that a straight. Then we get reduced to these islands. Are those islands going to be enough to support colonies? Yes, they will, because that's a lot more development than I started the game with, and I now have 4 colonies, so, well, 2 completed colonies, and 3 complete colonies, and 2 in progress. I should actually worry about that. They're all in 1 colonial region. I'll have to remember to either move my capital or decide never to care about Lepcha again. That will be a tough decision. But yeah, for now, I think we're actually just going to go with Freya, continue getting money, continue to get bigger, and then eventually invade. I don't really like any of those missions. Obviously, at some point we're going to build an army, but probably not right now. Don't want to be friends with Lost Bosnia. And it's impossible to placate Norway because they just hate our guts. So, we have an heir. Ursa. So, a female heir. So, we started with a female Duchess. Well, Duchess. And then we had our Duke. Orca. And Orca is terrible. So, Ursa is a lot better than that. She is middling, but a bit above average in things we care about. Though, that still does not bode well for our military technology, where we'll still be behind on military, at least for now. I wonder what the leaders of the Bosnians are actually like. Oh, wow, that is an amazing leader. And that's also a really good leader, so we are jealous of their leadership. Ooh, and the Wittelsbachs have a queen. Oh, queen, like a female heir. A male king. Oluf Wittelsbach. Or Bach. So yeah. Orsa, or we could reroll the name, but Orsa is, I don't know, I guess a nice enough name. And there was a character in the bridge called Orsa, so hence why I know how to pronounce Orsa. Though I probably am still butchering it. But anyway, that is good, and we also now have administrative tech 8. We've invented courthouses. Now, of course, keeping up in administrative technology is very important because we need to keep our production efficiency up so that our colonist chance stays up. It's a tangled web. So rather significantly, I have realized that I misunderstood the way that states and territories work. Now, here, for some reason, well, I've made it a state, but then in my thing here, it's not saying that it's a state, which is weird, and I think a bug. But the important thing is, though, that it has 0% autonomy. So that is what that's what's being a state allows it to have 0% autonomy. Territories have 50%. Now, searching on the internet, because I wanted to see whether states and territories had replaced the distant overseas penalty, I've realised that something can be distant overseas. So if we look at overseas provinces, this is distant overseas, and if you make it a state, then it is it still has 0% autonomy, like a state back in the old world. So essentially it has replaced it. I'm not sure if it's fully replaced the distant overseas penalty, if it completely negates it, or whether if you make it a state, it's no longer has the penalty of distant overseas, but if it was just a territory, it would have the penalty. I'm not sure, and we'll find out. But most importantly, this allows us to move our capital and still have 0% autonomy in our European territories when we eventually go back. And I have just counted up the number of areas in the British Isles and in Scandinavia, because that's what we are going to be conquering in order to get our achievement. And essentially there are 9 areas in the British Isles, so that's 9 states, and there are 11 in Scandinavia, so 20 altogether. Now, looking at the way states increase as you increase your administrative tech, essentially by level 17 you have 20, because that's cumulative, so 5 plus 6 plus 9. You have 20 at level 17 administration, and then 32 at level 20. So, in theory, by the time we are big enough, powerful enough in our colonial holdings, we should have the admin tech to make these our states. So that should be good and fun and powerful. Well, maybe not as powerful as if we had states in actual mainland Europe, where the land is certainly better than Norway, but at least our geographic size will be big. On the note though, on these areas, due to the recent changes in Ireland, like, there are a lot of good well, not amazing provinces, but there are a lot of provinces in Ireland, and they all have pretty good amounts of development. And each of these states is, I mean, there's only 2 states in Ireland, and each of those has rather a lot of development in it. Compared it to, say, France, where most of the states only have 3. Whoa, actually. So I guess Guyenne is just a really good, that's a big, good state. Okay. Not all states are created equal. Oh. And Burgundy as well. Although I guess those aren't that great territories. It's interesting. No doubt someone has done some data analysis to work out the min-maxed best states in the game. But it will, it does seem to be an interesting game mechanic, and not unnecessarily increase complexity in return for, I don't know, more nuanced gameplay in a way. It's not annoying like some changes can be. I actually rather dislike the Burgundian inheritance events. I feel it is far too railroady, and it's just because there are a bunch of, I guess, nerds on the internet who can't deal with the fact that Burgundy could be a strong power and want to see their, I guess, traditional French borders, or whatever the borders in the Benelux and all that turn out right. I personally have always liked Burgundy as a thing that exists because it's a big, strong, well, not necessarily that big, but it's a strong military nation right next to France, and who wouldn't want that buffer between France and the rest of Europe? And also, who wouldn't want this country that potentially will be at war with France for forever, and be a strong ally in Germany? I've played so many games as German miners where I've relied on Burgundy or France, whichever one, playing them off each other at times, to ensure my defensive, uh, security. But anyway, the Burgundian succession has occurred now, and so, as has happened, it has been inherited, and for some reason, Württemberg is Württemberg the emperor currently? I thought Austria is the emperor, but Württemberg has got the territory, and this is amazing. This is just like Burgundy didn't disappear, though. Obviously, France has now got its French territories, and Burgundy had actually had several successful wars that actually taken all of this. Does Burgundy? Okay, the Burgundy tag doesn't exist anymore. Oh, it does. As you see, Burgundy is really, well, had really won. There was a big chunk of Burgundy. I think, yeah, they'd taken Artois. And Picardy, yeah. So they were a huge, chunky thing. So can we click on that and get some kind of... No. Unless they have... No, they don't have claims. But anyway, that is amusing to me. And, yeah, back to the grind. I don't know what to do here. This is going to become a colonial nation because I essentially did something stupid and colonized a fifth territory in the same colonial region. So, do I sell Bonini Nick to... Oh, is that... sell Benin to someone, or potentially lost Serbia? Do they want it? Can I actually sell anything to them? Maybe you can't even sell provinces anymore. Oh, so let's just... we'll find out, but I'm gonna have to move my capital in order to stop the colonial region happening. And if I'd been smart, I would have colonized a province on this territory here, because these provinces are a lot better, and made that my capital. So here, a nice grasslands. Actually, is there a simple terrain? So, grasslands may be the nicest we're going to get. Certainly no farmlands. No farmlands for us. But I'm not sure if they even spawn farmlands in the New World. But, yeah, we may need to move back. There's not really any great capital spots. Don't want an Arctic capital, don't want a woods capital that is a one province that could just be invaded at any time. I guess that one island is surrounded by one sea, so you could just park a a navy in that sea and completely protect it. That would actually be a really interesting. Yeah, that might be really interesting because if we have a bigger navy than anyone else, they can never take our capital. And unlike most islands are in between sea provinces, as you can see, but this island is completely surrounded by one little sea, so it's a potential thing to think about. But I'm almost tempted to essentially recall my colonist here, leave this on hold, which is a pricey thing to do because it will be costing me maintenance and it will not be growing. Just leave it on hold until I finish, like, completely colonize from scratch something in the New World. Either probably this province here because it has the highest development, it's a grassland, or this province because it's a grassland with a natural harbour. But maybe I should just leave that to the merchants. Have a capital that is not trade important and therefore able to just give that away to the merchant estate, which probably is a wiser choice. So now that we've completed our colony in Bodonin, we possibly could sell it to Lost Serbia for 27 ducats. Lost Bosnia won't buy it from us. Now, that would be good for getting a better capital. Though we did spend a lot of gold, a lot of ducats, colonizing this one tiny little province. There's a lot of blood, sweat and tears involved in it. But on the other hand, it's a one province that is its own state, and it is 111, and it is not important, and it isn't going to make Lost Serbia really any more strong than they are now. And so, yeah, we may as well, in a way, especially as we just took it in order to get more range. But selling it, I assume that the rest of us will give us colonial range from there to there, so all should be fine. So I think that is probably a good point to stop on. Yeah, we're really slow getting administrative power. So getting that stability is going to take a long time, unless our Duke dies. So yeah, let us sell it to Lost Serbia, and I guess just say, well, if I hadn't have been so stupid and colonized that province in the first place, it would have all been okay. Oh no, 10 prestige. And the Serbians are in control. Maybe there'll be like some rebels, some Norse rebels or something. Anyway, until next time, I will see you on the internet.